atWork Australia would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and pay our respect to elders past and present. This podcast is being recorded in the southwest and Western Australia, which is land of the Noongar people. We'd also like to pay our respects and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from wherever you may be listening from. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Candid Conversations with Shaun. In this episode, I speak with Belinda from OzHarvest. She speaks about all their wonderful services and how they're supporting some of Australia's most vulnerable people to be able to put food on their tables and feed their families day in, day out. Belinda speaks to some of the statistics of just how many people in Australia are struggling to be able to provide food for their families, and it's really sad that this is still occurring in 2024. I hope you enjoy this episode, and please, if you can in any way, support this organisation. You can follow the links to their websites, their socials to get involved, whether that be providing time, support or funding to be able to purchase meals or helping connect them with rescued food. Any support, any help would be greatly appreciated. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the podcast and taking time out of your busy day to come and join us. I know in preparing to record this, I've gone on and had a look at OzHarvest website and I've read a few things online. And I think it's really sad to see that in 2024, there's still so many Australians that are having to make it a choice whether to buy food or to be able to pay their medical bills. It's really sad to see people are still experiencing that.
It really is, and I think what is the most sad about that situation is that that number is increasing, it's not decreasing. So we're clearly not doing enough to address the true root cause of the challenge there.
Yeah, and I actually just read a couple of quotes from the website as well, which are really heartbreaking, that people these days are really struggling, and people are really desperate trying to get food for their families and find it difficult to be able to put food on their tables.
That's correct. Lots of people now, and increasing people, are making those really tough decisions as to what they spend their money on. And food is not made a priority, particularly when they have a family. There's other things that are more important than putting food on the table for the adults. The children obviously come first. And so there's some really tough decisions being made by lots of people in our community. And I think also lots of people that maybe you wouldn't expect are needing to make those decisions. We're talking about people that are working, that are employed and earning a wage or a salary, and are still in a situation where they need to make those tough decisions. And I think that's a big change in our society, in our community over the last few years.
Yeah, and I think, the way our economy is at the moment, we could probably all relate to the extra high cost of living at the moment. Notice that $50 doesn't go very far anymore.
Yeah, for sure. You don't really fill your shopping bag for that anymore, do you?
No. And just, I guess, to get started, we just spoke about how many people are struggling these days, and that might have been a bit of the purpose around why the OzHarvest charity was born. But can you tell us a bit more about OzHarvest, where they come from, how it was created, and the purpose behind the charity?
Yeah, sure. So in 2004, Ronnie Khan, who's our founder, saw in the work that she was doing, which was in a much more commercial role, the big gap between the excess in food and therefore food waste and people in need who could benefit from having that food given to them. And so based in Sydney, she began to just of her own accord take leftover food from the events that she was producing and deliver them to a local charity that she knew of who was supporting people in need. So that's where the story begins. And I guess it was quickly established that the need was far greater than Ronnie. So therefore OzHarvest was born, and she picked up the phone and started calling people to come and support the cause and support the mission. So it's been 20 years. That was 2004. Wow. So we're here celebrating our 20th year this year, which is such an incredible milestone for us as an organisation. And anyone who knows Ronnie knows that she's on a mission and nothing's going to stop her. So, of course, OzHarvest has grown exponentially over that 20 years, more than I'm sure she ever thought was possible. So we're now in every state and territory across Australia. And we've also reached some overseas destinations to share the model of OzHarvest and support other countries with their communities locally, which is super exciting to be able to have that kind of reach as a little organisation in old Australia. And so this year, actually went and checked the stats this morning, knowing that I was coming to talk to you. So to date, we have collected more than 120 million kilos of food. And for us, that equates to almost 280 million meals. So we're super excited to reach those kinds of milestones, and it doesn't stop. We are continuing to do what we do. And I think locally, so based in Sydney, we've also had the opportunity to expand into different avenues of trying to create impact in that sort of food waste sustainability space in our community. So we now have a food truck that operates out of our Sydney operation, and they go to community events to provide food for local groups and activities, but that you can also pay for them if you're a corporate to come and cater for your function or your event or whatever they are, using rescued food, of course. We have a restaurant in Sydney called the Refectorio, so that's an amazing space where people can come and enjoy lunch or book in for a function, that kind of thing as well. And again, we're supporting the community with really high quality restaurant style food, and we invite members of our community in need to come in and enjoy that at no cost.
And that's all from rescued food?
We try our best to use as much rescued produce as possible to show a real example of the quality of food that is destined for landfill, and that's really not necessary. There's so much you can do with that food that's been sort of labelled not fit for sale. And the reality is that, we don't always pick up enough flour, sugar, eggs, etc. in our runs to make the most of those meals. So we do have to spend a little bit of money on getting the staples together, but predominantly the food that we use in any of these operations is rescued. The other thing we're doing in Sydney and Adelaide, we have a supermarket model as well. The Adelaide one's only actually just opened in the last couple of weeks, and Sydney has been running for a couple of years now. And so it operates on a take what you need and pay what you can model. And all of the food and produce that's within those supermarkets is rescued or donated. So we don't purchase any food or produce that goes into those supermarkets.
Can you tell me a bit about the process? So to OzHarvest, I'm assuming go to the big main supermarkets, pick up the food that they can no longer sell, or do you also go out to engage with farmers who their produce might not fit the standards to sell within the mainstream supermarkets? Might be passed on to you guys?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of everything, to be honest. So we try not to do too much with the produce between picking it up and dropping it off. So yes, it comes from supermarkets, but it also comes from restaurants and function centres and cafes and delis and things like that. And yes, some farmers, but I think that really is dependent on the location of the office we're talking about, if they have access to primary producers. So I wouldn't say that's our main piece of food rescue, but it's certainly part of the mix across the board. And then I guess predominantly we try and collect that food from that location. So we have a fleet of trucks and vans that are refrigerated that go on a run every day. They have their pick up and drop off destinations. And the plan is that they go out empty, they pick up and drop off all day, and they return empty to base. But the reality is that there is so much food that's available that sometimes they can't deliver all of that food to the agencies in that day. Or sometimes they pick up 900 kilos of mushrooms, and that's just a little too much to deliver to every single agency on their run. So we then would bring that produce back to base, and that would then be distributed. For example, your 900 kilos of mushrooms. It's a lot of mushrooms, by the way.
It is. What would you do with mushroom
that's a
juice,
great
mushroom
question.
pie, mushrooms?
Versatile, but that's a lot.
Sorry, I just keep thinking of that Forrest Gump clip of how Bubba Gump is telling you all the different ways his mum cooks shrimp. So we could make a little mushroom skit out of that.
Mushrooms. So what we would then do is distribute those kilos of mushrooms out to all of our agencies by bringing them back to base and putting them on vans in the morning as they go out on their run. The other thing is we're really keen to make sure that there is a diversity of nutritional food going out to each location, and we tailor what we drop off to those agencies as well. So if you're an agency, say that cook meals in the evening, you have a dinner program. They don't want pre-made sandwiches. They want something that they can fresh produce that they can make into meals to be served. However, if you're an agency who has food trucks and vans that go out into the parks and support people living on the street in that space, you want more things that are ready to go, like sandwiches or pies and pasties, that kind of thing. So we really look at the needs of the agencies and try and match as best we can with whatever we have. The issue, I guess, in that is that we never know what we're going to get. So it could be 900 kilos of mushrooms, but it also could be any other product you could possibly imagine in that run. So we do our best with what we have available.
Yeah, so on a daily basis or a weekly basis, how many meals or how many people do you think OzHarvest are feeding?
Don't know is the short answer. Thousands is the long answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it'd be hard to measure. You never know how far the food's going to be stretched by the different organisations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reality is that there is an increase of demand of about 30% across the board for people looking for food relief support from agencies across Australia. So I can't give you an exact number off the top of my head, but I know that it's huge. I know that it's too big for what we should expect living in Australia, and I know that it's growing.
And I know we're now on the countdown to the holiday season, and do you see an increase in demand for your type of services around this time of year?
Yeah, for sure. I think often, as people prepare to celebrate Christmas, they're using their money for other things, including buying gifts for their children or their family members. So I think naturally the demand for food relief increases through our agencies over this time for that reason. I think, the cost of living has sort of become that standard challenge for so many Australians, and food often isn't made a priority when they're allocating their money and what they need to do. So again, there's a natural correlation between that and the increased demand for food relief into the agencies that we support. And I think some agencies also host Christmas lunches and dinners for their communities as well. So, and some of them close for several days across that holiday period, which really leaves a large volume of people in the community wondering what they're going to do to fill that need between sort of the Christmas and New Year's. So that increases, therefore, the pressure on the agencies that are open through that period. And so the volume of food that's delivered to those particular agencies is increased. We reduce the amount of vans and trucks we have on the road through that week of Christmas and New Year, and we target, as so many are closed, agencies are closed, and so therefore we're targeting those that are open and providing them with the type and style of food that they need.
I guess it sounds like, there's no extra demand around this time of year. It's just year round. People are really struggling and need the support for food. I guess regardless whether the holiday season, people need to eat at all times of the year, don't they?
Sure do. I mean, I guess there is a peak at this time and moving into Christmas, but yeah, the demand is high and increasing.
Yeah. Now, if we can shift the discussion a bit more onto your specific role within the organisation, I believe you're involved with the Nourish program. Can you tell us a bit about the Nourish program and how that supports people in the community?
Sure. So the Nourish program is a hospitality-based training program for young people who face challenges to education and employment. So we're looking at young people aged between 16 and 25, and we provide a qualification, a certificate 2 qualification in cookery. Now, even though I say cookery, we do lots and lots of different skills that transfer into employment. And also transfer into hospitality, like customer service and barista skills making coffee. So everything from cooking to serving coffee and serving customers. So it's quite a broad range of skills. The program turns 10 next year, which is super exciting for us. And it's really a big milestone for me as I've been part of the program since it began. So it's a very exciting time for us. And to celebrate, I guess, all of the alumni that have come through the program, we'll be hitting just over 300 students when we graduate our classes this semester. So really excited about that milestone. Thank you. Thank you.
How much has the program changed over the last 10 years? I mean, what did it look like when you first started to what does it look like now?
Look, I think it's a really interesting question. With anything like this, I think what you think it's going to be over 10 years, it really isn't what you started. Where you started is just so far behind. So we thought we could see really obviously that food rescue was like a Band-Aid solution. Still is. That hasn't changed. And then we thought as an organisation, if we truly want to make a difference, we need to work at at where the problem is starting. So we felt that we were in a really great position to connect young people that we were connected with in the community to education, to pathways into employment, and particularly in hospitality. Is that what we did? As that's what we do. So the things we wanted to achieve, I guess, was supporting young people that we were already working with, using our chefs and kitchen resources that we were connected with, providing a qualification. So it wasn't just a fun cooking class, but it was actually a tangible qualification that they could do something with, and then supporting them into employment within the hospitality industry. So that was kind of what we thought we wanted to do. 10 years later, we learned a lot. And I guess we've realised that young people coming from this space really need more support than we had ever anticipated, and that we needed a deeper understanding and education ourselves on their needs. So what we thought we were doing was really underestimating how much was required to make this be truly successful. So I think something really key for me is that I learned that success is not how many students we graduate into employment. That was maybe what we thought would be a measurement of success for us when we made the original plan. But it's actually, for me now and us as a program, about how many become engaged with learning and then move into a pathway. So it doesn't matter if it's more education or it's employment or whatever the pathway is. The reality is that these young people are quite disengaged when they come to us, and the success is that they are engaged with what they're doing and with themselves on the way out. So now I guess Nourish is actually far more than just a hospitality qualification. For our students, it's a space to build confidence and to build their self-esteem, to connect with people. There's so much isolation for young people at the moment. It's a really great opportunity for them to connect, to make new friends. You know, they don't know each other when they come to class, and they walk out being lifelong friends, which is really amazing. To build life skills. So there's a lot that we do within the program that's not just about cookery and hospitality. They learn financial literacy, and they learn about nutrition and so many other things that actually help them in their day-to-day life. And I think we really provide a safe space where they can discover their identity, or at least more about their own identity and who they are as a young person.
I guess a lot of the people you might see come through the doors would have, they've come from quite traumatic past. They might have experienced generational unemployment through their parents, or been let down through the education system and not had a chance to be able to gain the skills to be able to secure employment. So I guess coming to an organisation like this that can provide their education in a safe environment where they can learn how to give themselves a nice meal and then have an opportunity to be able to progress into the workplace is really setting these people up to be able to, I guess, break that cycle and move on and achieve their own goals of their lives as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really important part of the process for us, is that we have a really deep understanding of the challenges that they are coming to us with and what they've experienced, and to support them in a way that makes them feel and understand that that doesn't have to define them, and they can now have these skills and knowledge and ability to be able to choose their own direction. I think that's really important. And I guess, part of all of this is, when they come to us, they're coming to us with a sense of purpose. That's why they're there in the first place, is because they've chosen to commit to doing this program. So this, for me, the combination of all of these things together is actually what leads someone to truly changing the path of their life, the direction that that's going, is they've got all of the pieces of the puzzle together to do that for themselves. It's not up to us to do that. That has to be their choice.
Yeah, exactly. You can't want something for someone else. That other people, they have to put the effort in themselves. So how does someone find their way to the Nourish program? Is it through word of mouth, or are they referred from other support organisations?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. We have an amazing recruitment system now working away in the background of Nourish. So primarily we're working with the agencies that we deliver food to. They're connected to young people in the community, and they know what their needs are. So that's really a starting point for us. But then, of course, there is word of mouth, and it stretches far beyond those that may be receiving food rescue from us into schools and other organisations. A young person has to be referred to us by a professional support person to make sure that they have the support outside of the program in anything that they need in their day-to-day life. So they need to be referred, and then they come in and do a little taste test for a couple of hours with us, meet the team, jump in the kitchen, do some cooking, and really get to see if it is what they want. And we also get to meet them and understand what they need. And these two things are super important to see them be successful throughout the full program. We want them to complete, and we don't want to set them up for failure. We want them to be successful. So making sure we have this process of recruitment in place where everyone has a good understanding of what's going on, we find to be one of the pieces of the puzzle to make for really successful recruitment of students and see them complete the program really successfully.
I know this next question might be tricky to identify. You've probably got many examples you can speak to, but can you share, and without giving away any personal details, any of the success stories or the really highlights from your experience with the Nourish program?
Yes. So right now, I know we have 4 young people in apprenticeships, which I think is really incredible that they've sort of come from that place where they really didn't know what they were going to do. And now they have found what they want to do and they're committed to doing an apprenticeship and get a trade. So for me, that's massive. There's one person in particular at the moment who went through the Canva program. So we work with Canva as a partnering organisation. They have a fantastic work experience program that they offer. So we got this young person in there that helped them cement for themselves that this was the direction they wanted to go. They then achieved an apprenticeship with Rockpool, which is a very high-end restaurant in Sydney, and they now work in a beautiful Italian restaurant locally. So that's amazing. A student I taught in the very first intake of the program back in 2015 called me not that long ago to say, hey, this is like 8 years later, I'm over here, I've moved to Melbourne, I'm working as a chef, I'm also working as a trainer with young people that are coming out of juvenile detention and they really need Nourish. How do I get them to do what you do in Melbourne? So I just could not believe that this total rat bag that was with me back in 2015 had then gone off and had the most amazing life and story, and it had come full circle that he was then working back with probably quite similar rat bags to what he was when he was a young fella, and was also reaching out to us to see how he could provide them with more support and pathways. It's just such a beautiful full circle thing. What else can I tell you? We have a great young girl in Adelaide, just come out of our Adelaide program. She started her own business and she's now looking to expand. She's been offered a new cafe position at some new place that's opening up where she can expand her business. So pretty amazing young lady there. A few years ago, we had a young girl who had some really significant challenges in her life, and she hung on in there and she completed the program, and she still didn't really know what she wanted to do. And she actually ended up using the skills that she learned with us to work in hospitality, not as her main goal. She actually used it to support herself financially, to become independent, living independently, financially independent. She went and got a license and a car by working in hospitality, but then she actually studied nursing and she's gone on to become a registered nurse. So just a different way, I guess, that the program was able to provide an opportunity. Maybe wasn't one for one with hospitality, but certainly provided a stepping stone for her to take that direction.
I guess the program helped us set her foundation from which then she could go on and achieve her goal and dream of becoming a nurse, which is quite incredible when you think about it. It must be something really, that, as an organisation, be very proud of stories like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, that comes back to what I was saying before, that I have realised over this period of time that it's not about the immediate employment outcome. It's about the journey that young person takes and the ability for us to help set them up to make those decisions. I think that's probably the most value that we could possibly offer a young person. I think maybe one more story just to give you another different take on the way that the program actually works. We had a young student with us who, probably a year and a half ago now, who suffered some really serious health complications while she was in the program with us and needed to stop doing the program. About 6 months later, she said, okay, I'm better. Can I come back? Of course you can. Let's try and get you finished. And again, she had another round of really serious health complications. So for the third time, she was back and so keen to complete and so dedicated to get it done. And last week, she just completed her final piece of work that she needed to do. So she now has reached her qualification. So after 18 months, this young girl succeeded. So to me, again, it's like not about the employment outcome necessarily, but it's about the support that we were able to give that young person to overcome the challenges, to build resilience in her, and to ultimately succeed and just be human in the reality of what was going on in her life. So and create that space for her.
And if you can help her develop those skills, employment will come naturally down the track. She will eventually get there. But yeah, everyone's on their own journey and they'll progress at their own pace. So people have to live out their journey and life will find its path, I guess.
Of course. I think it's a real testament to the team that work on the program that they have the stamina to work with these young people through all of their challenges and to see them still be successful. I think it's a real testament to the patience and the dedication of the team. And we have a youth worker working within the program dedicated to each cohort in each of our locations. We're in 3 locations as a program. And I think that the addition of this role has really shown the value of that dedicated support and how much more we're able to achieve with that young person by having that dedicated person with that specific skill set. The program's 18 weeks with us, but then we actually have the ability now to support them for up to 12 months beyond completing the program. And we're checking in with them and supporting them on their journey. So if they're trying to go to job interviews or they're trying to get into another course or if they're going back to school, whatever their role is, whatever they're trying to do, we've got someone as part of our team who's looking after them and making sure they have what they need. And we find that level of support really makes the success of the program and the success for the young person, but it also can demonstrate sustained change for that young person. I don't want Nourish just to be a little course I did at some point that was fun. I want it to be something that person can then reflect on and say, wow, I really learned so much out of that set me up to do all these other things in my life.
They can pinpoint that was the changing point in my life.
Yeah.
Where things began to change and I saw improvement in myself.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're incredibly passionate about supporting and working with young people. Is that something you've always been involved in?
I'm a chef by trade.
Oh, wow.
So no. But so much of my life, I've been 10 years working on this program now. So much of my professional world has been dedicated to this space. And I think I've always been really interested in working with young people and in the hospitality industry. And as a chef, I was a young person in hospitality at one point long ago in my life. But also I mentored and supported so many young people coming through the industry as a professional chef. And I also worked in many different locations around the world as well. So I know the value of hospitality and what it means to me. And working with young people in that space really was so great for me in my time in that world. And the ability to share knowledge, I think, is just so important. And for me, that's why this piece of education, young people and hospitality is just the perfect blend, really, for me as a person.
And is that how you transitioned into this program? Because your background as a chef, is that how you entered into OzHarvest originally? Well,
actually, I entered as a volunteer. So I was changing my career, decided that I didn't want to be an old grumpy chef. And chefing life generally isn't very conducive to having a family. And at that point in my life, that's what I was considering on making happen. So I was making a decision to change the trajectory of my career. And so I was training to become a trainer and to become a hospitality trainer. Not that I had this in mind. In fact, this didn't even exist when I was doing that in my life. But I had some spare time. Which I certainly don't have any more of, but I was volunteering. So I went into OzHarvest to actually volunteer in our nutrition education program that was running at the time and putting my newly discovered educational skills, training skills to the test out in the community teaching nutrition. And Ronnie, she said, who are you and what are you up to? And we had a conversation, and then within, I think, a fortnight, I had a part-time job, and within a couple of months, I had a full-time job, and within the year, I had Nourish land on my desk with Ronnie saying, can you have a look and see if you can make this happen? And 10 years later, here we are. So careful what you wish for.
It's incredible how things can grow from where they begin and where they end up. From meeting someone, you might have met Ronnie by chance. Imagine how different your life would be if you never bumped into her that day.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And now, as we finish off, can you tell me, what does the future look like for the Nourish program? What are your hopes and goals for the program?
Yeah, generally more, I think, is the shortest answer. I think there are opportunities to grow the program into new locations, but I think there's also opportunities to scale the program in the locations they're currently in just to do more of. So at the moment, we're actually working through a process of strategy to decide which of these options is actually the best for us over the next 12 months to 3 years. So it could mean a new location, it could mean more of in the same location. And I'm certainly interested in how we build really strong relationships with other organisations to support them, for them to support us, but also in terms of our young people moving into various areas of employment, to really have those strong connections into organisations, companies, businesses that are looking, willing and prepared to support our young people moving into first-time employment opportunities. So that's a space that we're really working on at the moment.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic, and it sounds like there's lots of exciting things happening in the future. And this might be the most important question I ask you all day. How can people get involved and support OzHarvest? Or I'm guessing, being a charity, you do rely heavily on volunteers as well. So in whatever capacity people can help, how can they get involved and connect with your organisation?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's three main ways. There's time, there's money, and there's word of mouth. So communicating about what we do. So for time, the easiest way for anyone to do anything with OzHarvest is to jump on the website, see what's available and sign up as a volunteer. That's number one. We have an enormous volume of what we friendly know as our Yellow Army. They're the most incredible people and they touch pretty much every aspect of what we do at OzHarvest. Even in Nourish, we have volunteers in every class. They're incredible people and we love them dearly. So offering your time is so valuable, and we really look to see what you want to do and what your strengths are. So you don't, you can jump on a van, you can answer phone at reception, you can work in a supermarket, you can come and join a cooking program, you can work in the warehouse. There's so many different things and opportunities available to people looking to donate their time. Of course, we're always open to people to donate their money to the cause, and it goes into either what they want it to go into or into the general operations of what we do. And then just hearing this podcast and other pieces of information about OzHarvest and sharing that with other people is so valuable and so important to us, that actually the message just gets out there of what we're trying to achieve in reducing food waste and educating people about the process of that and what you can do in your own environment. For us, that's really important and really powerful.
Well, thank you so much, Belinda, for coming on today and sharing some information with me about OzHarvest and the Nourish program. I definitely know I've enjoyed hearing about the journey, and I've always been quite fortunate in my life that I've always had food in the cupboard, I've always had food on the table, but I've never really, realize how lucky, I'm so grateful now that I have had those benefits, and now learning that there's so many people that don't have those basic human needs. It's wonderful to hear that there's organisations like yourselves out there supporting our most vulnerable people in the community.
Oh, thank you, Shaun. It's so nice to have met you and to have a chance to share a little bit more about what we do. And I hope your listeners enjoy learning that and that we get to see them around the OzHarvest family soon.
I'm sure they will. Thank you very much and take care.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode of Candid Conversations with Shaun. If you'd like to get involved with OzHarvest and support them in any way, whether that be making a donation, supporting them with time, please check out the links in our show notes and check out their website for ways that you can get involved and support this wonderful organisation so they can continue supporting more Australians to ensure they can access their basic human needs of being able to have a warm meal every night. Thanks guys, and hope you enjoyed.